We are here, Jonra Studio fans. Thank you for joining us again. This is actually the first ever episode of Outtake. We have a very important guest here. We have Ford Austin, an actor, producer,
Director.
Oh yeah.
I've done it all. Yeah, I've done a lot of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up, guys?
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Congratulations on the first episode of your new podcast.
Oh, thank you. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
I'll say that. So.
And just so one of my personal things, I want to know how you got into the industry.
Oh, well, that was kind of my parents' doing. I've been in it since I was a child. And, my parents produced a movie when I was 1 year old.
Wow.
Called 30 Dangerous Seconds. And they put my sisters and I in there. And it's really a weird scene. It's like the movie goes along. It's about the end of like this really dark period in the Oklahoma oil industry where it was kind of like it went bust. Yeah. So all the people they all ran out of money, and this one guy comes up with the idea to rob a bank car, and he along the way the movie has all this weird shit in it. Like one thing is he gets married to his girl, and I never saw the movie until this year. It's on YouTube, like in its entirety.
What is it called?
30 Dangerous Seconds. So I went and I sat there and watched it, trying to find myself, and lo and behold, there's this scene in a park where these two people get married, and I'm like being held against my will
so sweet.
in this woman's arms, and my sisters are there, but there's like only children attending the wedding, so I don't understand whose idea or concept this was to just have children as the guests in a wedding.
I think, by the way, you're from Oklahoma, right?
I was born in Oklahoma City and raised in Dallas and Houston.
Oh, wow.
And then went out to the East Coast for college and lived in Philadelphia for a long time. Got my MFA in acting out there, and full scholarship and ride. So it was great. It was exactly what I needed. Yeah. Like they paid me a boatload of money to go to school, and I never even thought it was possible.
Wow.
So my parents put me in like this casting service when I was a kid, and they kind of fly you around and put you in these different shows as like basically like extra work, kind of background kids. But when I was an adult, I really made an active choice to be an actor, and it was all because of that exposure to it, being on sets as a kid, and it was like even when I was in high school, I still was like getting out of class to go and like work on stuff and audition for stuff. So I was one of those child actors. And then when I actually got to go and train and study acting at like an MFA level, they teach you like everything about Shakespeare and Sam Shepard and Tennessee Williams, a lot of theater stuff, and then some film stuff at Temple University in the grad film department. And that was really where I first started wanting to make my own movies at the graduate film program at Temple. And I did, and it was a terrible movie, but it was fun. It was just all I was having fun. Yeah. Which is kind of what it is, when you start, you're like, I just want to have fun with this. I don't want to like have it be like a labor. And
sure, yeah.
Like what you guys are doing. So I remembered that, and I remembered that fun, but I moved into New York City, and I got a pretty big agent that put me to work right away. Yeah. So I had to go to work. Yeah. So I had to be an actor for the whole time I was there, and I never really got to direct or make movies. Yeah. And I did Death of a Salesman with Ralph Waite, and I did another bunch of other stuff out there. I was on Another World, and I got a chance to be on Saturday Night Live one time, and it was the show with Helen Hunt as the host and Jack Nicholson. They had done that movie As Good as It Gets. So he came in, and he's like, he just pops in on the show. Like only the directors knew it was going to happen, and the sketch writers. Nobody else knew. So it was this huge surprise, and he never does television, and definitely I think it was his first televised appearance to date. Oh, wow. And he might have done other stuff since then, but mostly it's just on the award shows. So anyway, I'm in New York, and I'm doing plays and stuff, and I'm doing soaps and all this sort of actor stuff, and I say I gotta make movies. Yeah. And I move to Los Angeles.
Wow.
And I don't know anybody here.
Mm-hmm.
And I just start to like drive around and try and figure out what to do. So I go and I join the Groundlings and I take classes there. And that kind of like taught me how to write, because you like really go and you learn how to write. You learn the creative like flow of dialogue and scenes. So then after that, I bought my own camera, and this is what everybody's shooting on film, right? Mm-hmm. I was part of this like time in Hollywood and movie making where everyone sort of wanted to start shooting. Oh, I just noticed I can see the Church of Scientology from your window.
Everybody says that.
That's the best view, right?
Really, that's inspiring. Thank you. If only you guys need to interview Leah Remini on this. So anyway, I was like, I bought my own digital camera.
Yeah.
This the first interchangeable lens camera, which was a Canon XL1, and it cost $10,000, and it was only standard definition. And I taught myself filmmaking, and I taught myself editing on an iMac. It was a little green iMac that had iMovie. It was ridiculous. And then we would use palm quarters to make movies that then we would get sold and in stores like Blockbuster and Fry's and Best Buy and Walmart. And I was lucky enough to be part of a movement that switched over from film and celluloid to digital video. Nobody had phones, nobody had any of that. There was nothing, and there was like 50 of us in the world who decided we're going to shoot digital video because we can't afford film. We're going to become digital video filmmakers. And it worked out great for me because I wound up making, I guess I've made movies on every single camera. Like I directed The Curse of Lizzie Borden. I directed, and that movie was on Netflix before like people knew about Netflix. It was like 2005. Wow. It was on Netflix. And then I directed a few other horror films for this company. Kind of like all like filmmakers. Francis Ford Coppola directed movies for Roger Corman. Other people directed movies. You just start in low budget horror if you want to be a filmmaker, because you're dealing with a lot of things that you got to juggle, like effects, and there's like mood. There's a lot of mood and tone, so you can really figure out like how to like set the tone of a movie. Exactly. Which is the most important part. And I just was very fortunate to from 2001 and really 2000 to direct digital films and some films in between. But for the most part, I really started to just stick to the digital filmmaking. Exactly. Because I could make things faster, cheaper, and easier. And I didn't have to wait for, like PhotoChem to develop my footage to know what I shot. Right. And, one of my favorite movies that I directed was this film set entirely in a car called Commute. And we drove over like 4,000 miles on the LA freeway system, shooting this movie entirely in a car without green screen. I had car mounts, I had mini cams, I had I had this full HD camera that I was holding in the windshield with just my arm. Yeah. And I was using a bounce over on my left arm, and then I had I wired it for the sound. And I could only shoot in certain directions because we're in this car, and you can't have a lot of people because it's all going to get in the shot. Yeah. And then there was another movie I directed called Dahmer versus Gacy that was kind of like the big hit of 2010. Horror film, quirky, comedy horror film. And then there was a bunch of other stuff I did up until 2000. So basically, I shot these movies and I directed these movies until 2007. When I went and I started an internet company before anybody was like charging or making money for their YouTube videos. Yeah. So it was because I was like on that cusp of it where I really was like just lucky enough to be there. And, we were getting 1 and 2 million views for a YouTube video back in 2007. Which was, hard. That's unheard of. Yeah, that is. A lot of people. But it was a big thing where that's like when viral videos started to happen. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that company is still going today. We've got about 50 employees. It's called wonderhow2.com. And one of the fun things that I produced for that was this the first ever series of how-to videos for Red Camera.
Oh, wow.
We partnered with Red Camera and Ted Shilowitz, who was there at the time running Red Camera when just the Red 1 came out. And we demoed how to do it, how to like do different assemblies on it, and basic operation of the camera so people could figure it out, because nobody knew. It was like this amazing high-def camera that came out that was 24p, and it was like did slow-mo and intense over-cranking stuff, and it just had a really great contrast level. Yeah. So one of the ways that we tested out that contrast was we got the camera and we drove up to Big Bear in the winter, and there was this huge snowstorm. So we wound up finding about 30 people on the side of a hill who were all having this epic snowball fight. Oh. And we took the camera, and I went out there with my partner at the time, Mike Goodicke, who was the co-founder of the company, and he started shooting, and it was like I challenged like 30 people to a snowball fight, and they all kicked my ass while he filmed it and did a lot of over-cranking shots. And it was really cool because you can see all the information from the shadow of the bark in the trees, and then all the bright whites of the snow.
Right.
And of course that camera like really got better from there on out, and now you got the Dragon and you've got all the other stuff.
Right.
Black Magic and everything. Yeah. I mean, what cameras do you guys normally shoot with?
Well, we were just on a project and we worked with a Black Magic actually.
Yeah. Did you like it?
Yeah, the first one that we got was it was defective.
It was buggy.
Yeah,
very buggy.
But after the second one ran smoothly, and so it was pretty cool.
Does the mini Black Magic have 4K?
Yeah, it was the mini 4.6K. I think that's the name.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So when I first started shooting with video cameras, I shot in 1988 with this thing called a Pixel Vision camera. And I think Richard Linklater ended up using it on one of his movies. Mm. This was a camera that was made by Fisher-Price, and it literally recorded on audio cassettes. Oh, wow. And it was, you would just like record on an audio cassette, and you had to plug it into the VCR, and you'd watch it, or maybe you'd tape it onto the tape. Mm-hmm. But it was like really just kind of this pixelated thing. It's a funny thing. You can see a bunch of Pixel Vision videos. They're all on YouTube.
Wow.
Other than that, I did a lot of acting and stuff in between there, in theater, because like I did a lot of theater back east in Philly and New York, and then out here. Like 2 years ago, it was last year, I originated a new role in a Tennessee Williams play that the estate brought to our company there, and it had never been produced, and that was great. That was awesome for an actor because they print your name in the front of the play when they publish it. Right. And I'd never had that. I've never had that experience.
Yeah, and you haven't slowed down since either. I mean, you're doing Facebook Live with Vita Ghaffari.
Yeah.
And you're doing Six Pack Sam comes out next year. You just had a play like a month ago. The Devil's Wife.
The Devil's Wife. I'm on the board of directors of a great theater company here in Los Angeles called the Skylight Theater, and we produced The Devil's Wife and actually another play there called The Lost Child. We did them in rep, and I was not involved more than just supporting this great group of theater people, and we do have another play coming up that's opening next month called Rotterdam. Which is a beautiful movie about an LGBT lesbian couple, and they go through a big change in their relationship because one of them decides that she's a man instead of a woman.
Wow!
And the other one's like, well, but I'm gay. Yeah. I like women. And she's like, well, I still love you. They figure it out, and it's this great, beautiful play that won the Olivier Award in London that we're producing here in Los Angeles for its LA premiere. And it's exciting because we have Michael Shepard directing that, who's from the Celebration Theater here in town, and it's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
But to go back to the other thing that you asked about, the Facebook Live with Ford and Vita, that's a red carpet talk show that Vita Ghaffari, who's from the Mindy Project, and she's got a new film out right now with Mel Novak, who actually shot Bruce Lee in Game of Death. This guy is an icon of just movies, and he and Vita Ghaffari, she's possessed in the movie. It's like an exorcism scene. So they did that. But anyway, so Vita and I decided that we wanted to really break ground with this new technology, Facebook Live. This was like a year ago, or maybe it was a year and a half when it first happened. People were like, Facebook Live is a new platform. Nobody's even going to remember Periscope. They're going to be like, what? And that's true, because nobody knows what Periscope is now.
Nobody knows what it is.
And so I said, well, we'll just have red carpet parties and invite celebrity friends and get Getty to come and do photography for it. And we'll shoot like a talk show on my iPhone. Like, who does that? Like, we just said, forget it. We'll just do it. So we shot this thing on an iPhone. We've done about 30 episodes so far. And, And now everybody's on Facebook Live. So I was looking today. Vimeo they launched a new Vimeo Live platform today. So I'm thinking I might switch the show over there, or maybe you guys can show me how to do a podcast, and I'll do a podcast and expand it. But what was the other thing you mentioned that I just had worked on? That I got
Six Pack Sam.
Six Pack Sam. We just signed a distribution deal with Wild Eye Releasing, and we've been shooting that movie in Austin, Texas, entirely in Austin, Texas. Which my family kind of is like, I'm related to Stephen F. Austin, who was one of the founders of Austin, Texas. And for me, that was like a really great opportunity to be able to make a movie in a city that's named after my family, but also in a state that I grew up in, and just that, like, I have such family roots there.
It means a lot.
It means a lot. And also because the film industry there is sort of like 3 layers. It's like Robert Rodriguez. Are you working with Robert Rodriguez? No. Well, who are you working with? Are you working with Richard Linklater? No, we're not. Well, what are you guys doing? Well, we're just some guys making a movie in Austin, Texas. So that happens.
Right.
People besides those famous people make movies. And so that's what we did. And it's a great experience. So the movie's going to come out, I think, in February.
Oh, wow.
And it's going to come out everywhere. And we're going to be doing some deals at the American Film Market in Santa Monica in November to take it international, so that we can take it to Germany and Spain and Japan and Australia and China. So we don't discriminate. We want everybody to have a chance to watch it.
Right. No, the first project you brought up, I forgot the title. I'm sorry. The LGBTQ.
Rotterdam, the play that we're getting ready to produce at the Skylight Theater on Vermont Avenue in Los Feliz.
Right. Wow. Yeah, I'm really excited by that. Just because there's not a whole lot of movies on that topic, and even less, there's not so many good. Like, I know yours is a play, but there's not so much good entertainment on that topic.
Yeah, and it's a very big movement in the culture now, because people. It's like for decades, people have been sort of oppressed about how they feel inside. They're told what they should be based on what they look like. But we've come to realize that that's not really how life is. Somebody might look like a man, but they don't feel like that inside. So they're sort of made to behave like a man and live like a man. And it's like, it's not about just gender identity. It's about identity. And it's not just about LGBT as much as it's an issue that's affecting the world.
Exactly.
And yes, there's a lot of bad things going on in the world with natural disasters and regimes and presidents and stuff, but these things are very important too, because they're about what really matters. Is people struggling, trying to be themselves, and trying to be acknowledged for who they really are. And also about relationships. It's a love story. It's a love story that it transcends LGBT issues. It goes into something more, and that's why it won an Olivier Award, and that's why we're choosing to produce it with a talented director, Michael Shepard.
It's awesome. It's awesome that you're so involved in the community, because like you've made projects. I believe it was called It was called I'm trying to think of the movie. Oh my goodness, I don't have it right now. The Right to Love.
Yeah, that was a great one. And there's a great story behind that. I started producing that with the director, and sorry, the birds are flocking outside. Yeah. So we started following a couple in, I think, 2009.
Yeah.
In San Francisco, with their 2 adopted children, brother and sister, and then in 2011, I was driving home from the studio. I was producing that movie, and I was producing a movie with Cameron Romero, who's George Romero's son, and Tom Sizemore, and I was producing a movie with Gray Fredrickson, who would produce The Godfather and Apocalypse Now. And we had gotten the rights to digitally recreate Rudolph Valentino in a lead role in the movie. We're going to digitally recreate screen legend Rudolph Valentino.
Wow.
And I was also doing the sequel to Showgirls.
Yeah, see, I saw that.
Showgirls 2. So I'm driving home from work, and I'm producing like 5 movies. I'm really in the groove.
Yeah.
And I get in a car accident, and I totaled my car.
Right.
Convertible with airbags. I just got in a life-ending accident that puts me in a coma. Everything's destroyed. I have a sea of doctors. And after I wake up from the coma, a few weeks later, I remember I was producing this movie, The Right to Love. And George Lucas's company, Skywalker Sound, is about to start working with us on it for doing all our final sound mix. Mm-hmm. So I knew, because of that, and because also the issue, Prop 8 was a really big thing. Mm-hmm. And this movie, we decided to make this movie in response to Prop 8 because it just felt so awful. Yeah. And it was really wrong. So The Right to Love an American Family is a movie that I produced from my hospital bed.
Oh, wow.
With my right arm while my whole other part of my body was paralyzed. Uh-huh. And it means a lot to me. I went to the world premiere at Skywalker Ranch after getting out of the hospital after 6 months of... I was pretty much still in a wheelchair, but I used crutches that weekend. And, drove up to Skywalker Ranch, went to this amazing compound that was just like, I saw Star Wars originally when it was in theaters. Right. And I saw Empire Strikes Back in theaters, and I saw Return of the Jedi in theaters. And I saw everything in theaters. George Lucas had a major accident in his life when he was young that caused him to get out of cars and car racing, and then he went into filmmaking as a result. So here I am, I'm like standing at Skywalker Ranch on crutches after helping to produce the movie from my hospital bed. And we got that movie theatrically released in 2 cities. We qualified it for the Academy Awards. And it was a really great privilege to just see how far we could push this movie. We did a deal with Virgil Films and got it distributed globally. Yeah. So it was like this perfect storm that not only helped me get through my accident, but I was going to it was weird. Like when I got home, there was a movie I was making for Lionsgate called The Ghost Maker, and I got home and there was like this very similar. It was called actually Box of Shadows. And there was Variety on the table when I got home. And there was this very similar looking movie poster on the cover of Variety called The Ghost Maker by the same company. So I called up my co-producer and I said, what's the story? I think Lionsgate ripped us off. And they said, no, that's our movie. They changed the title. So here I am. I'm in a wheelchair at home. I'm producing this movie George Lucas's company is working on with me. I'm doing this other movie and my Variety article is on the table. Yeah. I just burst into tears because it was like such a thing. And I went to Showgirls 2 premiere in a wheelchair. And, there was a lot of life lessons about that where you just realize, you just have to persevere and keep on going. And just know that, as bad as your day is today, it can always be really, really bad.
It could be worse, yeah.
And then you just need to, fight your way out of it and recover and get back to making movies. Because I mean, that's why. I mean, you guys make movies, right?
Yeah.
So
we actually made our first movie earlier this year. It's called In Real Life. We shot it on a DSLR, but it's a short film. But it's really, really good. I think it's on our website actually, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Well, so here's the thing I'm going to tell you. The Television Academy changed their rules for the Emmys, and now your film qualifies for Emmy consideration by being on a screen.
Oh, wow, women aware.
So you should make a note there to Google that and look it up and submit, because you guys want to grow as filmmakers.
Yeah.
And, I've been fortunate enough to qualify, I think, about 12 movies, shorts, and features for the Academy Awards. I've never gotten nominated, but I've qualified almost every year since I've been out here. And, that's the playground you want to be in. You want to keep on moving up.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you strive for those higher things, it's just going to be better, because then it pops. It like welcomes you in, and then the next year you do a little more and you get a little better. And I mean, that's like what I would say. I can't wait to see your movie, though. I hope you guys send me the link when we're done.
Yeah.
I hope it's a really good movie.
I think you'll like.
Yeah, it's actually set in the 90s, and it kind of deals with the cusp of the digital age. The main character, he's in a chat room in the very beginning.
Oh yeah, I loved those chat rooms.
And he agrees
mail. Yeah.
He agrees to meet up with this person at a bowling alley, and it's really about him coming out and facing his fear of social interaction, because his little username is Hermit67 or something like that, and we got our friend, he's an actor, his name's Stefan. He just totally fits the role. He just totally looks like a little hermit. Just like
How long did it take you guys to shoot it?
We shot and edited that in 1 week.
Yeah.
And then you created all the old chat room type visuals for the computer?
Yeah, I think we did something similar. It's not a complete recreation.
But it's something of sort.
Yeah. Oh yeah, can we open?
Did you how many pages was it?
The script itself is, I think, 7 or 8 pages. It's like a 10-minute short, so
so like a minute and a half per page. Or
yeah,
a minute and 10 seconds per page.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
that's what I would agree.
It's a good film. Looking back at it now, there's a couple things I would have changed about it, but like you said,
move on to another movie. Move on to another movie.
Yeah, I mean, that's what
filmmakers I know that they get caught making a movie for 10 years, and you're like, oh gosh, better be an amazing movie. Shooting it for 10 years. But what do you guys got planned next? Wait, what's the name of that one?
It's called In Real Life.
In Real Life. Yeah.
Yes.
And then
where have you screened it so far? Just the web?
Well, it got into the Long Beach State Film Festival.
Yes.
So we were in there. We didn't win, but we were.
You were there.
We were there.
Nominated.
So, and then
nominated.
I'm sorry, no, we weren't nominated. It was, what was it? I forgot.
I mean, we qualified.
There we go.
They celebrated it.
Yes.
It was really cool. Really cool to see it out there. I mean, definitely the competition was at kind of a higher level, but the fact that we got in there was still really cool. So that's pretty much the only place it's been screened. But
how did you guys prepare for that movie? What did you do the day before you had to did you rent a lot of equipment, and did you rent a lot of locations or shoot outside of a house?
We rented the bowling alley.
Yeah.
And
Which bowling alley did you rent?
Gage Bowl.
Where's that one?
It's over in central LA, or is it kind of more near?
It's a little bit north of Compton. It's on Gage Avenue. So if you go on the 110,
what'd they charge you guys?
Charge us $100 for 5 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, got a deal.
So when I shot Dahmer versus Gacy, we shot at the Pins Bowling Alley in Ventura, and I paid him $300 for just 2 lanes for the day.
Wow.
So you got a good deal.
Yeah, we got a good deal and got a lot of work done in those hours.
Why do you think they rented it to you guys at such a great rate? Is it because you're young, handsome film studs?
I wish. There were 24-hour bowling place.
It's a 24-hour bowling alley?
Yeah.
24-hour bowling alley. And they rented it for us because we agreed to come at 4 or 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
So I remember my co-writer, Bobby, he didn't sleep at all that night. And me and Josh, we only slept for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we were running on very little sleep, but
on fuel.
But considering how the project turned out, I think it looks pretty good.
Was this your first film?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I did a bunch of stuff in high school, but it's nothing really.
So you're on your way.
Yeah.
Which HDL you used? Like a Canon?
Canon Rebel
3T.
T3i.
T3i,
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Yeah. So
24p. Sure.
Yeah. But
it didn't bug out like that Black Magic.
No,
it
the Black
didn't.
Magic.
No. Oh yeah, that project. That was actually a friend of ours. Project that wasn't produced by us.
We collaborated on a
Yeah.
lot of things. So
Do you guys like collaborating with other filmmakers?
that was the first time we actually collaborated, and he was a friend. So we said, okay, we'll agree, and it still came out good. It was just that sometimes we'll see differently, I guess, and so I guess it still came out as a good project.
Yeah.
Yes, but
That's really how it kind of always is.
Yeah.
Even the best of friends, when we go and make movies together, pretty quick from the start when your friend has like a completely different idea than you do.
Yeah.
You're like, well, you know what? I kind of saw it like this. And I do this thing sometimes where I try and do a lot of cuts of like instead of shooting a master, I think it's more interesting to see these little shots of details around the room instead of like a big wide master shot.
Yeah.
And I was making movies for this one producer, and I started doing that the first day of shooting, The Curse of Lizzie Borden. And he stopped me about 30 minutes. He's like, "What are you doing? This is not how we make movies."
Yeah.
He wanted to have a movie factory. It was like, make the movie in 7 days, and that's a feature film in 7 days.
Wow.
I had to shoot it. I had to deliver everything, and then somebody else edited the movie. And this was a movie with like 12 actors, and there was one day I had 3 locations. One of them was out in Santa Clarita, and the other one was in Van Nuys. So it was like a big company move. But he saw me shooting all of my little shots, and he was like, "No, you got to shoot the master first," which I agree. That's smart. You shoot your master first, so that just in case you run out of time, well, at least you have the master. And in that aspect, it turns into a business instead of a creative venture.
It's
right.
not even worth it.
Yeah, and that's kind of how this other project, I guess, felt. It was just more like Josh was describing. It wasn't fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there wasn't that. It didn't feel like anybody. I feel like on set anybody could make their creative input. You know what I mean? Not necessarily that it's gonna get done, but like the fact that you can say it and be like, "Hey, here's an idea. What if we do this?" And you don't have to necessarily do it, but like that's how it was in real life.
It was fun.
It was fun.
You enjoy
that. I think that's probably one of the reasons that I still do theater. Is it takes that element out of it. You don't have somebody like while you're rehearsing a play or making your choices before the play opens. Somebody else is always telling you what you should be doing. You get notes every night. You change to the notes. You adapt the notes. You're figuring stuff out. And then even when you open, sometimes they'll give you notes. But you're the only guy out there. They're not out there with you. They're not like sitting on your shoulder making you do what they want you to do. You're doing what you want to do. And you're able to really, so my mentor, until he passed away recently, was Martin Landau. And he used to tell us this thing, always be exploring. And even when you open a job, even when you start a film or a play, you are always exploring. And that's like when people they do a play for like a year or 2 years, it's because they haven't just figured out what the role is and just start to redo it every night trying to recreate the same thing. No, you're trying to do stuff differently every night and figure out ways to do stuff and play different objectives. And I don't even know why I started saying that, but it's because it's better than a movie in that way, because you get to just have the freedom to go when people aren't there with you. If the director's gone, there might be weeks before you even see him again.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I did this one national tour of a one-man show called Male Intellect and Oxymoron. And so like the director came in, directed me, and then I opened the show, and then he went off and performed the show because it was originally his show. He wrote it. He went off and performed the show somewhere else. So it was just me and a stage manager for literally months in San Diego or weeks in Florida. Yeah. Or it was just like everywhere we did it, it was just like me and the stage manager. So it was great. Yeah. I mean, there was even one time when we did it in San Diego that somebody got up from the third row, and it was a direct address, like you're talking to the audience. So it was like the audience is basically a part of the show. You're trying to figure out a problem with them. And this lady gets up to go to the bathroom, and it was this really long, slow walk, and we all saw her walk up the steps to go to the bathroom at the back of the theater. So I just sort of stopped the show, and I started talking to her husband. I said, does she always make a point to just walk out of the room when you're talking about something? And everybody laughed, and then I walked up into the bathroom and I said, hey, we're all out waiting out here for you. We haven't continued the show, so whenever you're done, and you know I was mic'd, so the whole audience could be in on the joke.
Yeah.
If the director had been like that, that would have been shut down. That impulse would have been shut down immediately.
Right.
Like in a movie, they'd say, oh, you're way off track. But in a play, it's free. It's very free.
You get that freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's when you can have a lot of that creativity come out.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
And just that's something actually I want to talk about as well, because I was going through some of your tweets. Yeah. And I found the movie biz doesn't want to be in the industry either, or something like that. And you know, I've had a lot of interesting conversations with people in the industry about the state of Hollywood.
How's it going?
This summer was the worst box office in 25 years, and just like, what do you think the problem is? How do you think they can fix it?
I don't know if there's like a fix for what's currently going on with the business. I think that people who are in the business and are very successful and working all the time and getting compensated for it really love it. But there's more and more people who don't get access to those jobs, and there's more and more people that have to sort of self-fund their projects, and these are like big people that are having to self-fund projects too.
Valerian was Luc Besson. He just self-funded.
Who would think that Luc Besson would have to self-fund a project? But if you want to do it your way, that's what you have to do, because the other way is business, and it's like you have executives telling you, well, it's got to be a little bit more like Avatar, and it's got to have a little more of the stuff that we did for these other movies. So, you know, that's what you do is you. But the business people here in town that are sort of frustrated, I mean, that's been happening for a long time. Yeah. It's a fortune to live here. It's a fortune to live in New York. So, you know, people go to Atlanta to try and find work. There's a lot of issues that are going on with stuff that we don't even see yet, too. So I see this thing that's about to happen over the next few years, if we all don't get blown up. But if we all don't get blown up, it's all going to be fine, because they're going to just start digitally recording your image from head to toe. And they've already created a device that you can buy that does it. It's like a $600 device. You just stand on it, and this camera rises up around you and circles around you like 20 times as it rises up over your head. And it records your entire dimensions, and then it translates it into an avatar that can go into a video game. So once you're in this space, then it gets into a real slippery slope where they're just going to record you, compensate you like $20,000, and say, okay, we have the rights to use you wherever we want. That's it. And they don't even need us anymore. And that's definitely coming, because there's just actors that, I mean, there's actors that would be like, okay, I'll give you $20,000 or I'll take the money. I'll take it. I don't have a job. Fine. Yeah. And, you know, that's definitely going to come. And I don't know that you'll ever get over recreating somebody's voice recognition or voice, because every time you hear a voice that's created, it's sort of robotic, right? You can tell in the voice patterns, but they'll get to that too. Yeah. So
eventually,
I mean, well, they just did in Rogue One, they completely resurrected.
Yeah,
I forget his Tarkin. Yeah. I'm glad you know that name because I don't know the actor's name.
Well,
Star Wars guru.
I think he was a very famous British actor who his name might be Peter.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Peter something.
He did a lot of great Dracula movies in the 70s and the 60s. He was one of Christopher Lee's contemporaries. And yeah, him, and they also digitally made Carrie Fisher look younger. And yeah, why not? Yeah. So just get someone who's a similar body type and similar look and digitally put the little ping pong balls all over the actor's face and graft it. Yeah. I think that's going to come. The other things that are going to be really weird about the industry is the union stuff. You know, when you're outside of Los Angeles, it's a non-union town. Yeah. I mean, this is a union town, SAG Films, and, you know, there's even more non-union projects coming up here every day than union. So, and I'm an elected official in the union. I'm a delegate. I represent a lot of people every convention. And I think that it'll be interesting to see how it expands to states like Georgia and Louisiana and Texas, and they're right-to-work states, so they don't have to. Like you as a union actor, you can go out to these right-to-work states and supposedly just never be penalized legally because it's a right-to-work state. You have the right to take whatever work you want, and the union has no jurisdiction there to tell you what to do. Oh, wow. So at that point, it just becomes a moral issue. But you're also breaking a code of union ethics. As far as like filmmakers, I think it's a really bright future because, well, when I started, you didn't have Hulu, you didn't have any of the digital platforms. The only sources that we had for getting a movie out there was Blockbuster. And there was another one maybe, but it was like very obscure. Yeah. So like little mom and pop video stores existed when I started, and Blockbuster was the gold ring. Yeah. The brass ring. And then Walmart, and then Redbox came along. So like Redbox was like this huge thing because you could get $40,000 for having your DVDs on Redbox, and it's still kind of a good one to get. Yeah. I just think there's so many opportunities for filmmakers that, like you guys as young filmmakers, you should start figuring out how to shoot on SAG contracts. And if you haven't done it yet and you want to learn, I can teach you. I do that. I shoot on SAG contracts all the time. And my company is a signatory. And I just felt, for me, I really enjoy using union actors because they're instantly more recognizable generally. You can get people like Eric Roberts, or you can get, like, we just did a movie with Richard Raley, who was in Office Space. And he's a wonderful, talented actor. He was on Broadway in The Iceman Cometh with Kevin Spacey. And it's just an amazing guy. You'd recognize him right off the bat if I showed him to you. But I'm not going to because it's a podcast. So the other thing that it's a great time to be a filmmaker. Yeah. That's the bottom line is we have these cameras in our phones, and you've got filmmakers who are shooting entire feature films on iPhones. Yeah. And why are we not out just shooting them? Why are we not just coming up with a script right now?
I know. Yeah.
And shooting it? I think I should come back for another podcast, and we should just have a brain session.
Brainstorming
where we just sit there and we go, okay, here's our main character, here's our dynamic character, here's the girlfriend, here's the journey. What's the low point? What's the arc of it? And how many pages is our script going to be? Well, ideally, and this is because I was a part of Channel 101, which was founded by Dan Harmon and Rob Schraub. Ideally, you make like a 5-minute or less web series. Each episode being 5 minutes or less. And it's funny, and it's original, and it's interesting, and you have fun with it, and you don't worry about production value as much as you worry about the script and the connection between people. It's really about the script at a certain level, because you know there's like two things about filmmaking. Like one, if you have a great script, everything else just doesn't matter.
It falls into place.
You can have an amazing script, and people will be like, well, it looks like they shot it on like a Pixel Vision camera, but man, that was a great story. And there's another thing about filmmaking I learned, you guys probably noticed this too, is like the sound is way more important than the visual.
Mm-hmm.
People will go into a movie theater and do this, like go to a film festival, and you'll see if you're sitting there watching a movie and the image is awful, like, or even like you can't see anything. Like I watched this one movie at a film festival once. It was a horror film about this guy chasing somebody.
Yeah.
And it was so dark we couldn't see what was going on. We just heard people screaming and running, and we were like, "Oh, okay, here, get out of there!" And we don't know where the hell out of there was because we couldn't see. So we stayed. We watched the movie, even though we couldn't see the movie. There's the irony. There was another movie a couple days later. They had some pops and some whistles in their sound, so we turned the movie off like 2 minutes in. We can't watch this. We have to somebody has to help these people make their sound better. And then we'll try and watch it again. But you'll turn the fucking sound off, or you'll just leave the theater.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If it's a bad visual, blurry or black, you'll watch it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean that's a couple years ago when I was doing YouTube videos in high school. They like offered this video tutorial. They're like, the number one thing you gotta get right in your videos is audio. Like it's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And like, cause even if it looks bad, you'll think that, oh, maybe it's supposed to look like this. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's some artistic choice. You know, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's just like, but the audio is always got to be crisp. You know, so.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Tell me about these posters back behind me. What are these posters?
These ones?
They're pretty cool.
They're pretty cool,
How
yeah.
to Be a Latin Lover and Live by Night. These are.
So Live by Night. That's the Ben Affleck movie that came out Christmas of last year, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was fortunate enough that I was called in to play a police officer in that movie.
Yeah.
Boston PD, and we shot it downtown at the Biltmore Hotel. So I get to the set, and there's like all these 1920s cars around, and I'm like, oh man, this is badass.
Yeah.
And we go down into the bowels of the hotel, and as I'm walking down there to go to the craft service, there's Ben Affleck sitting there in costume. And I start like clowning around with a Boston accent for him. And then we kind of giggle, and he's very serious. He's like way into like the fucking directing of it.
Yeah.
So, I leave him alone before I get fired. And we go, and we're sort of waiting. And then later that night, we have this scene where he gets pushed out of the back of a Boston speakeasy into the alleyway where Brendan Gleeson is out there as the cop, who the chief of police. And there's about 4 of us who play his Boston PD muscle. Mm-hmm. And I was lucky enough to be one of these 4 guys that beats him with a rubber billy club. Mm-hmm. So we're like out there in the middle of the night, and there's like this Model T going down the alleyway, and then he gets thrown out. And then we go up there, and they give me like this awesome cigarette to smoke. So I'm like hotboxing a cigarette in front of the backlight. And just all this cigarette smoke like billowing around me in this cop uniform. Just walk up, and we just like Brendan Gleeson goes, "All right, boys, you can have him. Take him away." And we just go up there, and we just fucking start wailing on this. Yeah. Well, there was like a dummy on the ground, and then they moved the dummy out, and then they did his stunt where he like jumps out and falls down on the ground, and we go up to hit him then, and we stop right before we hit him, and then he jumps out, and he looks at the playback on the video monitor. And he's like, oh, okay. And he thinks, oh, I got to turn my head a little more. Okay. So then he jumps back into the shot. Oh, wow. And we're all just like, oh, fuck, this is like Ben Affleck. Like, we're watching him, like, do it all.
Yeah.
And, like, really under pressure. It's like 2 a.m. in downtown Los Angeles. Then he, like, throws his stuntman in there. And he's, like, coaching me on how to, like, hit him in the back with the rubber billy club. And like, he's got, like, a pad on his back that sort of, like, cushions it. And he's the stunt guy, so he's supposed to take a licking. And I mean, they're just like, hit him harder, hit him. And just wailing on this poor stunt guy.
Oh, wow.
As hard as you can with this rubber billy club. And it was like awesome because that night you're like watching this guy, Ben Affleck, who, love him or hate him, he's got a couple of Oscars now for writing and producing. And he's like doing it. Like he's at the top of his game. He doesn't have to fucking do any of this. And it's hard. It's really hard the higher you get up to continue to like stand up when everybody says your shit sucks. You suck. All the fucking people on the internet, oh, your movies suck. Oh, this sucks. You suck. Me. Yeah. So, and you're just like, why am I'm like making movies for somebody. I don't suck. I know my stuff doesn't suck. And here he is. He's like working his ass off in the middle of an alley with us. Yeah. Jumping in and out of the scene, crafting the shots with the most specificity.
Yeah.
And
so how was it working with Ben as a director and as an actor as well? Like, how was he as a person? How was it?
Dude, as a person, he's great. He's a really great guy.
Wow.
And this was the second movie I did with him. I actually skipped one of the first things I did when I came to Los Angeles was Pearl Harbor.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's right.
And that was a fluke. I was just like, I had just gotten a job on it as an extra one day. And I was like, it's a drag. I'm like going out here as a background guy after like working a lot. So I went out to the set and I turned in my costume at the end of during the day there was like 100 actors out there. We're all like wearing these uniforms from 1945. And we're supposed to be Doolittle pilots bombing Japan. And Ben is the star, Josh Hartnett's in it, and Ewan Bremner, Michael Shannon, Alec Baldwin, Kim Coates, Tom Sizemore, who's a friend of mine. And we're all like out there in Tustin and Field. And they take pictures of all 100 of us, Polaroids. Because like somebody's going to be upgraded and be like a main pilot next to Ben and Josh, and you're going to fly around. That'll be great. And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, look at all these other guys. They all look the part more than I do. But then at the end of the day, you slip back to the trailer to turn your costume in. So I'm turning it in, and I see Michael Bay huddled over 100 freaking Polaroids in the dark, and he's just pissed. He's just pissed at what he's gotten himself into. And I'm like, you know what, fuck it. And I grab my friend, and we walk up to him, and I say, excuse me, Mr. Bay? And he says, what? What do you want? What? And he like catches himself and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, guys. Well, what do you want? And I say, I just wanted to thank you so much. This was a great experience watching you work with these B-29 bombers and all these people, and it's a really cool movie to work on, man. Thank you. And he's like, oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, all right, guys. Hey, what are your names? Ford Austin, and my friend told him his name. And then like the next day they called us and said, oh, you're one of these 12 Doolittle pilots now. We're going to fly you around. You're going to go to Houston and Corpus and Hawaii and Cabo. And you're just going to fly with the crew, and you're going to fly with the cast on this big private jumbo jet. So that was a really great experience. We worked on that for like a month. And everywhere we went, we were just like all the people in the town. We were like this star. It was the first time I felt like a real star. Yeah. And Ben was going through something on that movie. And he was kind of dealing with some issues, but he was really cool, really fun. But he joked more on that film. He made a lot of jokes, and he's a movie star, man. Yeah. He's the biggest movie star there is. And then Live by Night, I don't think it was an accident. He was way more serious because he had to do a lot more. So he's very, very serious. When he's directing a movie, he's very serious. Plus he's gone through the marriage. Yeah. And I think they have kids. Yeah. And he went through a lot of stuff with his own gambling stuff, and you grow up and you grow in the industry. So you just start to really kind of get a little more serious as you go along. Yeah. And then you wind up going from that movie into this other poster that you have.
How to Be a Latin Lover.
How to Be a Latin Lover, where I worked on that a day and I played a golf pro on that.
Yeah.
I didn't get to do much on that. But. Very cool that you have both these movies in here.
Yeah.
These posters.
We thought of you. We were like, we need to get these posters.
So smart. Smart guys.
And then when I saw you outside with the hat, I was like, oh, it's perfect.
Oh, this hat?
Perfect.
Oh, right.
You see me? Like, there you go.
That's perfect.
That's that's my grandfather's hat, so I just sort of wear it whenever when it's sunny out.
Sure.
I don't know. I didn't really get to talk much about these other movies that I've got coming up now.
Mm-hmm.
Some stuff just happened. I just hosted. This is something that I didn't see coming. I just hosted the 2017 Los Angeles Nollywood Film Awards.
Right.
Yes.
And I was like, what? Why am I? Okay, I will host the Nollywood Awards. That's fine. And, so it's like, picture me. I'm hosting an awards show full of a bunch of Nigerian filmmakers in Los Angeles. And they rented out a Scientology building in South LA. So it's like me and like 100 or 200 Nigerian filmmakers. And I'm hosting it. And it was one of the best experiences of my life. King Bassey is the man that runs it. He's a real king from Nigeria. And he's a big sweetheart.
Yeah.
He makes films. And it was very inspiring because Nollywood, I didn't know, is bigger than Hollywood.
Oh, wow. Really?
Bollywood is the biggest film community in the world. Nollywood is number 2, and Hollywood is number 3. Probably there's going to be something called Chollywood soon, the Chinese Hollywood.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
we actually went to an event involving that.
Did they call it Chollywood?
They didn't call it Chollywood.
I
don't remember they
trademark Chollywood. Trademark. Patent pending. So it's interesting, these other communities, people still go to movie theaters in India and Nigeria and China. Like, it's a community thing. You go to movie theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And in America, nobody really, they want to get a theater in their house.
Yeah.
Like, we should turn this into a screening room later, this podcast room.
Yeah.
And that's just what they want to do. So as a result, this Nigerian film community is like really robust, and they're making so many movies. And the co-host was a producer of movies that wound up offering me a part in a film that they're shooting in Houston later this year, which my first response was, are you sure it's going to be dry enough? And she said, sure, yeah, it's all dry, it's fine. So we're making this movie called Black Lives in Houston. That's about, it's like right back to like the issue-based filmmaking that I've done, and the Rotterdam play that's coming up. This is about racism, and it's about this bike gang that they kill a guy because he's black, and they wind up burying him, and then it goes into this horror thing where his ghost comes back. You think it's his ghost. They think it's his ghost, but it's like him. He like comes back, and he kills them off one by one. Spoiler alert. So, but it's this really great opportunity to explore that, and then once the movie's done, have something to promote about that and start a conversation, because I think that's what movies and theater and all of this stuff really is, right? You just want to start the conversation
and see that impact. So I know that's how I grew up. Movies
make change.
Exactly. And so to me, that's awesome that you're doing a film like that. And
when you make a movie, it's great because you don't have to be there to have that conversation. Yeah. You really can be in more than one place at one time. Because your movie can be going on at a film festival in, Orlando, and you're in Los Angeles making another movie. Yeah. So people in Orlando are like actually thinking about the stuff that you made, and it changes their minds.
That's awesome.
And gives them a new point of view.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a great stopping point.
Yeah.
What?
I was going to say, I don't want to keep you, on, but I would love to have you back if it's possible. But
for our development meeting on our development podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
It was an awesome time talking with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I couldn't thank you enough for being here.
Thank you, guys.
So for the first episode, hoping to have you back, like we said, and you can follow your Twitter.
Anywhere on the internet that you can find the word Angry Baby Monkey, all was one word.
I had that written down.
Angry Baby Monkey. Angry Baby Monkey Pictures is my first production company I started, and Angry Baby Monkey is my Twitter handle, and that's but on Facebook it's just Ford Austin.
Ford Austin.
And Instagram Angry Baby Monkey.
Well, make sure you follow Angry Baby.
Does anybody
Baby
do
Monkey.
Snapchat anymore?
Oh yeah.
People love Snapchat.
Yeah,
actually,
I'm not on there, so.
If you want to reach the younger generation, I feel like
Snapchat.
Snapchat.
I'm scared.
I'm
To feel old. Yeah, I feel like my grandfather.
Yes. So that's there. And yeah, you know, if you interested in more, JonraStudios.com is where you can find us on the internet, and of course our Instagram, Jonra Studios, and Snapchat, and Instagram, Facebook. Thank you so much, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.